So good morning, everyone, from Nairobi. I'm coming to you from Nairobi, and it is Friday, March the 20th, and we're here for the Learning and Development Roundtable. So I'm just going to share my screen here so you can see our agenda. And let's just see. Good morning, Meredith. Welcome, welcome. We're so happy to have you here. Welcome to the first 100% online Learning and Development Roundtable. It's the first time. Good morning, Rockwe. So happy that you joined us. Lovely, lovely to have you here. I don't know about you, but I'm excited to try something a little bit different and have it 100% online for the first time. And a special welcome to the UN staff who are, this is now approved towards UN training. So welcome to everyone who's just joining us. We have, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your names, Kitty Sap just joined. We've got Karen is here. Lots of folks online. So, oh, it's so exciting. What does it mean to be part of our Learning and Development Roundtable? It means that you're into learning, which means that you are open to new ideas and new ways of doing things and being a little bit vulnerable, because to learn something is to automatically know that you don't know it in the first place. So thank you, pardon me. Thank you for all of your hard work and for showing up today amidst this very difficult time. So I hope that you're keeping safe. I hope that your communities are safe and that you feel supported in all of the important work that you're doing. So just a couple of things to start us off. Please, please, please make the most of your learning and participate. We are recording, so those of you who are members of the Roundtable will get the audio recording and the video recording, so you can come back later and watch it and share it. Please feel free to use the chat function. So maybe you can take a minute right now and find that chat function, because I'm going to ask you about that in just a minute. We'll be doing some small group work. So I'll be dividing you into small groups and you can chat with the people in your chat room. So that will come up. Know that you can ask questions at any time. There's not an official question time. If you have a question that pops to mind or a comment, there's two ways to do that. One is to use the chat function, and one is to unmute yourself and ask it. So either one of those ways is completely welcome. And you may want to look at your screen right now to figure out how to use the chat function. And how to unmute yourself. You're automatically muted when you join us. So if you can go to the chat function right now, I would love for you to tell us your name and where you're coming to us from. So welcome, Winifred. So happy that you joined us. So if you can find the chat function, and look at that right now, and then just take a second to type in your name and where are you coming to us from. So your name and where are you coming to us from. Hi, Fidelia. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So happy that you're here. Folks are just finding the chat function right now, and they're typing in where they're coming to us from. So feel free to do that. So we've got 11 folks online, which is just fantastic. Okay, and we're just looking at the chat function right now. Good morning, Mike. Welcome. And good morning. Looks like Karangwi. So I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. So I've just invited people to find the chat function. And oh, it's Leah. Hi, Leah from the UN Conference Services in Nairobi. Oh, welcome, welcome. So happy you're here. And Franklin is in Nairobi, also from Conference Services. Brian, welcome. We're so glad you joined us. Feel free to head over to the chat function and let us know where you're coming to us from. Gideon is from UNESCO, and he's in Nairobi. Welcome, Gideon. Just delighted to have you. And Karen is from UN Women. Oh, Karen, so happy you made it. And Meredith is, oh, Meredith, hi. I've been chatting with some, and Meredith, just tell me if I'm butchering this, from Tustawi, sorry, from Nairobi. And Anna works for UN Women, and she's participating from her home in Nairobi. Welcome, welcome, Anna. And Clara is from the Partnership for Action on Green Economy from UNEP, from Geneva. Welcome, welcome. We're so happy you're here. And Mike is from UNDRR. Mike, tell us what that stands for in the chat. That would be great to know. And Winifred is from Nairobi. So fantastic. And Brian from UNDP. Oh, just delighted that you're here. So just again to help, I don't want this to be a lecture, so I really want you to feel comfortable to interact. So just practice putting an emoticon. So put an emoticon for how you're feeling right now, given everything that's going on. So put an emoticon for how you're feeling. And Meredith says, yes, I could try with pronouncing Tustawi. And Dennis is saying he's from UN Habitat. Welcome, Dennis. Welcome, welcome. So yeah, feel free to put an emoticon for how you're feeling. Anyone want to do that? There's no interpretation. Whatever emoticon you put on, is welcome. Okay, see one from, so Kidisaf, put a happy face, that's great. Anyone else? Is anyone tired? Is anyone stressed? Is anyone overwhelmed? I know there's so much going on right now. Oh, hi, Rockway. I'm glad you rejoined us. Welcome, welcome. Or maybe I have two of you online, so maybe someone else is using a different device of yours. Oh, yeah, Winifred, overwhelmed. Yeah. Has anyone done any of the online dance parties or anything like that? Yeah, and Meredith has a sign. Yeah. Okay, keep those emoticons coming. And Esther's just joined us. Welcome, Esther. Delighted that you're here. Welcome. We're just putting an emoticon in the chat function for how you're feeling. Okay, keep those emoticons coming. And I want to try something here. So if you can figure out how to unmute yourself. Oh, I see some winky faces there. That's great. Okay. So if you can figure out how to all unmute yourself, this is just for practice if you want to ask a question later on. And know that you can also ask a question in the chat. So practice unmuting yourself. So, and I can also do that for you. But practice, see if you can unmute yourself. So I see Mike is unmuted, Rockway's unmuted. See if you can all unmute yourself. Okay. Brian is unmuted. That's great. Esther, oh, you guys are doing great. Okay, Karen is unmuted. Okay, oh, you're all unmuted. Fantastic. Oh, we just got a couple people. Yep, one more person to go. Okay, I'm gonna, just in case you didn't want to unmute yourself, I'll leave that person there. Okay, and on the count of 3, welcome, Nav Muthara. We're just unmuting ourselves. And on the count of 3, as loud as you can, let's make some noise. Let's surprise anyone else who's in the room. And on the count of 3, I want you to say your name. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go.
Franklin.
Oh, come on, guys, that was lame. Okay, let's try again. 1, 2, 3, go, loud.
Leah.
Hey! Okay,
Oh, no.
and on the count of 3, yell out as loud as you can. I want you to shock not just the people in the next room, but in the next building to you. I want you to yell out your favorite food, okay? 1, 2, 3, go.
Beef.
I heard beef. And did I hear broccoli? Someone say broccoli?
No.
Okay, that's great. So I'm just going to ask you now to mute yourself again. Okay, so I just want to get you a little bit, because I know some of you are pros at this and some of you might be new to online. So just mute yourself again. But now you know how to unmute yourself if you want to jump in and ask a question. So I can see, oh, this is great. You guys are doing so well. This is fantastic. And I know that some of you are absolute pros at this. So yeah. So let me just quickly, oh, Rockwe, I'm guessing you're having trouble coming up, but I see that you're in again, which is fantastic. And just if the internet's dropping, just keep trying again. So just a tiny bit more, administrative housekeeping kind of things. I'm going to share a link with you in the chat. And this is really important. This is, and I know this sounds kind of school marmish, but this link is an attendance sheet. And this is important. This is important for 2 reasons. One is particularly, oh, there's a dragonfly flying in front of my window here. I think that's good luck in some places. So particularly for UN staff, this is how you get this training to count towards your UN mandated training. So make sure that you click on that link and fill that in, because that's the official record of your attended. It's the same form that you would fill in if you went to an in-person training. It just asks your name and things like that. So I need to get you to fill that in, please, by the end of today. Okay, so by the close of today. Okay, so just a couple housekeeping things. Your ideas for meeting topics are most welcome. I'm in the middle of planning for next roundtable, which is in April. So far, suggestions have included the use and usefulness of tech tools in our work. Oh, and Nav Mathar is saying dragonflies are a sign that something is about to be demystified and you will see a situation more clearly. Oh, I couldn't have planned that better if I tried. That's fantastic. Okay, so the use and usefulness of tech, also a practical sharing of how to navigate online tools like Reunite and Zoom. I'm getting lots of requests for that through the trainings I do. So there's that. And then there's a couple of things that are a little bit specific to UN people. One is how to prepare for YPP. So that might not work for the overall group, but how to package yourself for senior level positions, managing stress and work-life balance. So just pop in the, feel free to pop in the chat there. If any of those really pop out at you and you'd like to have one of those for the April, so our next meeting is April 17th. So feel free to put that in the chat if any of those appeal to you. How to use tech tools in your work, how to use online conferencing tools, how to deal with stress, work-life balance, etc. And if you have other ideas, please put those in the chat as well. Okay, so if you are new to the Learning and Development Roundtable, make sure that you are on the mailing list. Hi, Winifred, welcome, welcome. So happy you're here. And if someone forwarded you the email, then that probably means you're not on my list. So hi, Kennedy, so happy to have you here. Feel free to pop your comments and suggestions in the chat line, or in the chat function rather, we're talking a little bit about topics upcoming. Karen's saying how to package self for senior positions. Okay, great. So if, I'll just share this link with you here. So if you haven't already signed up for the list. And by the way, being a member of the roundtable is the only way to get the recordings, to get access to the recordings, actually, of all 7 years. We've had 7+ years. Hi, Mike, welcome. Of recording of roundtables, and those are all online for you. Not all of them are recorded, but they're all online. Let me just label that. So that's the L&D sign up link. Let me just say that again. So feel free to copy that. And sometimes there's a little bit of confusion. So when you sign up, that means that you will get regular emails at the most like once a week that gives you the invitations. It gives you a link when I've posted everything online, etc. That's different from RSVPing. Hi, Kennedy. It looks like you're coming in from a couple different devices, or maybe there's 2 Kennedys. Welcome, welcome. So this is what it looks like when you RSVP. It's this screen, and that's a different link. So sometimes people think that they've RSVP'd for a meeting when they've actually signed up for the roundtable. So there's two links there. If you're new, there's a link to a video in your agenda. Let me also share in case you don't have it handy. This is the agenda, and this has all the links in it here that I've mentioned so far. And I will send all of these in a follow-up email, all these resources. So check that video out if you want to know more about the roundtable. Donations, we donate money once a year, and just because of everything that's going on with Corona, I've just put that on hold a little bit, but we'll take that up hopefully next meeting or maybe the meeting after. So in the meantime, does anybody have any questions? And feel free to unmute yourself or put anything in the chat there. Any questions so far? Okay. Ryan says none from his end. Okay, great. And again, you are welcome to jump in at any time, folks. Please, this is your time, and I want it to be really, really valuable for you. So I am going to just switch over here. Okay, and so I'm switching my screen to the PowerPoint. And again, know that this will all be given to you. Rocco, you're welcome for sharing the link. My pleasure. So you will get, if you're a member of the roundtable, you will get access to this PowerPoint, to the audio recording and the video recording. Just make sure that you've signed up at that. And if you're not sure if you signed up, just try to sign up, and I think it tells you if you've already signed up. Okay, so that's enough for housekeeping. Let's dive into transferring our learning. So it's really, I'm so excited to talk about this. It's one of my favorite topics, although I have to say I've got a lot of favorite topics. Okay, so does anybody know Emmanuel Jal? Has anyone heard of him? He is a dear friend of mine, and he was a former child soldier in South Sudan, and he's now an international performing artist. Yeah, Kidasaf says, yeah. I highly recommend, my favorite video of his is We Want Peace. It's got Kofi Annan in it, and George Clooney, and Alicia Keys, and just amazing. So we were chatting the other day, and he says, your unconscious brain learns from repetition, and your conscious brain learns from curiosity. So I thought that was just such a great quote. So, and also I love the Heath brothers. I have pretty much all of their books, except the brand new one. I haven't ordered that one yet. And they say that aha is more powerful when preceded by huh. So in other words, if we can get our learners curious, and if we ourselves can be curious, then we learn a lot more. So I would like you to be curious right now. And when you think about this topic of putting your learning into action, what are you curious about? What do you want to know? And feel free to pop something in the chat there. What do you want to know about putting your learning into action? Why did you sign up for this? What are you hoping to learn? Just take a second and think about that, and share it if you're comfortable in the chat. But just if you can, try to write down just, or, you know, in your head, just think about 1, 2, or 3 things that you want to know about putting your learning into action. Any ideas there? Okay, so Winifred is saying how to implement what is learned. Absolutely, how to do that. Yeah. Anyone else? Okay, and Karangui is saying, practically, I am aware of my capabilities, but how to package this on paper? Oh, okay, great. Kennedy's saying, how to implement what I learn in my daily or weekly routines. Oh, yes, routine is so good. We're going to talk about 3 habits, Kennedy, that will help with that. And Esther, how to ignite interest in adult learners. Oh, okay, that's great, Esther. That could be actually a really good topic for a roundtable, because it's a little bit, that's interesting. Okay. Welcome, Leah. We're so glad to have you here. And Brian, we're just talking about what people are curious about with the workshop today, to remain motivated with, oh, Brian, I have a tool for you. Okay. And Esther, I'm just, how to ignite interest. Okay. Let me know if you guys would like a whole session on that. Like, how do you get learners involved, engaged, etc. And by the way, know that you will also get a copy of the chat. So that comes with the video recording, audio recording, and we also get a recording of the chat. And Nav says to remain motivated with daily learning and how to engage learners and wanting to know more. Oh, okay, fantastic. Okay, so now part of that is what Esther was saying about how to ignite interest. Okay, yeah. Okay, let me know if that would be interesting for a whole session on how to engage and motivate learners. Okay, so in terms of some of the things, and this is my attempt at trying to help you be curious. We today are going to rewrite the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. If you've heard that book by Stephen Covey, we're going to rewrite that. We're going to find out what STD stands for. Oh, I was afraid of saying that the wrong way, and I did. We're not going to find out what STD is. We're going to find out, oh, I'm going to blush now. We're going to find out what SDT is. We're going to learn 3 critical habits, 3 circles, and 3 key ingredients. Okay, and Esther's saying we'd like a session. It's very interesting to think around this, since in our work we get inertia, especially with online learning. I'm going to show you a little bit more about the inertia and some of the stats there. And Rockway, how to stay learning and have motivation and not waste your time. Oh, good. Okay, great. Hamdi, welcome. So happy to have you here. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so when we think about applying our learning, the official term for this is called transfer of learning, right? So what is transfer of learning? What does that mean? Anybody? What is transfer of learning? And don't overthink this. It's not neuroscience. Kidasaf is saying, help my learning stick and actually be able to use it. Exactly. It's exactly right. So I like this quote when I was doing, and Winifred, yes, sharing what you know, absolutely, especially with social today. And I'm going to, that's actually a specific piece of what we're going to talk about. And I like this quote I found: most of the people readily accept the principle, but resist its practice. So transfer of learning is really putting things into practice. And there's some assumptions around being able to put things into practice, which is all about being an effective learner. Okay, so Rockway, I'm so glad you're on the call, because this actually comes from the work I did with your team. So I had the pleasure of working with Rockway's team in Ethiopia, and I asked them, what are the 7 habits of highly effective learners? The 7 habits of highly effective learners. And this is, then I had my assistant make a word cloud out of all of those words. So Rocky, you might remember all of those flip charts all over the room. So just last week, I had him collate all that information and put it into a word cloud. And word clouds analyze text by frequency. So the, pardon me, the larger the word, the more common that word was, the more frequently it was repeated. So you can see here that this particular team, Rockwe's team, and I'm just trying to remember, there was probably maybe 50 people roughly. Rockwe, you can correct me there if you wish. So for them, an effective learner was people who read, they listen, they research, they ask questions, they discuss, they observe. And here are some of the active words, right? They do, they're very proactive, they interrogate, they're interested, they brainstorm. So part of being able to transfer our learning is being an effective learning, being an effective learner in the first place. So the official definition, or one of the official definitions, is transfer of learning occurs when people, there's sort of two stages here. They apply their learning, which is information, strategies, and skills, to a new context or a new situation. And one of the ways that I like to define transfer of learning, or putting your learning into use, is getting the learning to leave the room. Okay, so getting the learning to leave the room, whether the room is one of the fishbowl rooms in NOF, at the UN, the new office facility, whether it's a boardroom, whether you're sitting under a tree doing a workshop, it doesn't matter. But it's about getting that learning to literally transfer into another situation. Does that make sense? Any questions about any of that? Okay. And by the way, with online learning, one of my pet peeves is when an instructor says, okay, is there any questions? No? Okay, shh, and there's no time. So I feel it's a little bit, it's important to leave a little bit more space than we would in a live setting, or a face-to-face setting rather, because, oh, you know what, folks? I just want to make sure I did record, right? Okay. Sorry, I just had a little mind thing there about did I press record, and I did, which is one of my nightmares. Hi, Ida. You're so welcome. We're so glad you're here. Thank you for showing up. Okay, so just know that my pause time is a little bit longer, because when we're in person, you can see someone who's starting to ask a question, but online that's a little bit more hidden, and I want to make sure that anyone who has a comment or a question can do that. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about our agenda, the three things of three that we're going to learn. We've talked a little bit about what transfer of learning, or putting your learning into action, means. So now we're going to shift and talk a little bit about why it's so important, and 3 things that you can do to get started immediately. So again, I'm just throwing in some quotes here. Knowledge without application is like a book that is never read. So learning something is the first stage, but if it stays in your head and it doesn't move into your hands, and in other words, getting applied, then the world doesn't benefit from all the new ways of thinking and doing and applying. I think, as you all know, you're all very mission-driven folks, doing very important work in the world. The pressing social problems of today, they're not going to be solved by the thinking of yesterday. We need new ways of approaching things, and that comes from learning new things and applying that learning. Karangil says, to clarify, my earlier point is in reference to, say, writing research papers, for example. Okay, so let me just go back to your other point there. I'm just scrolling up. Oh, I see. Okay, so you want how to package that on paper. Okay, great. Writing research papers. Okay, great. Thank you for that clarification. And I think the 3 habits that we'll talk about will particularly speak to that. So if we don't apply our learning, if we don't put it into use, then it's a waste of that learning. It's like a book that's not read. And it's a wasted opportunity for creating social change. And it's a wasted opportunity for improving, creating, and innovating. And when we look to ourselves as individuals, it really helps with SDT as opposed to STDs. I knew I was going to make that mistake. So when you think of that term, SDT, what do you think that stands for? If you can put in the chat, just make up a silly. I made up one here, just a silly thing. So I put superlative dancing trees. So just make up something silly. What could SDT stand for? Just take a second and put that in the chat. So sublime, dirty turtles. Okay. What else? Can someone think of an example? It doesn't have to come anywhere, obviously, close to the truth. Small diet ting. That's great, Esther. I like that. Signal detection theory. Oh, that sounds very official. Something to do. Oh, Brian, that's great. Something to do. Okay. Oh, I guess we'd have to, we would want, that's STD. So we'd want to switch that. Something due to. Okay. Anyone else? Does anybody know what it actually stands for? It stands for self-determination theory. Now, if you're starting to groan in your head, thinking, "Oh, this is," oh, there you go. So Kitasav got it. Yeah, self-determination theory. Yeah. So I'm giving you a little bit of theory behind the transfer of learning, but mostly this is going to be super, super practical. So the interesting thing. Hi, Rockwe. I'm assuming your internet keeps dropping, and I'm so impressed and thankful that you keep joining us. So thank you. We're just talking about self-determination theory. And by the way, oh, I forgot to tell you, I'm going to give you a ton of resources at the end of the workshop today. All the resources that I use to create this. So self-determination theory basically says that we have 3 needs, which is competence, autonomy, and relatedness. And this comes from Daniel Pink's work, specifically his book, Drive. And I'll give you a link to I think I put a link to a video that summarizes that. So basically, to be healthy, well humans, we want to feel competent, like we know things, that we're on top of things, that we're knowledgeable, that kind of thing. We want to have autonomy, so we want to have agency. We want to be able to have control over our life. And then we want all of those things to be able to relate to things. We want to put that all in context. So our learning and our actions need to relate to the work that we do, to our interests, to our family, to our communities, to the type of social change that we're seeking. So the interesting thing with putting your learning into action is it helps all of those 3 things, right? So putting your learning into action, using your learning, helps with self-determination theory, which means it helps us feel really good about ourselves. So putting your learning into action helps you feel more competent and confident, etc. So you get a bonus there for how you feel individually. But there's more than that. There's, before I start talking about how we put our learning into action, this is making the case for why that's so important. So one reason is it helps us feel really good, but it also helps with our organizations. So regardless of which organization you work for, how do you think putting your learning into action helps with our organizations? Just feel free to put something in the chat there. How does putting our learning into action, using our learning, how does it help our organizations? Does anyone have any ideas there? Hi, Lucy. Welcome. We're so happy you're here with us. We're just talking about how putting our learning into action helps our organizations. And Krangle has said to maximize human resource skills. Absolutely, absolutely. Maximizing human resources solves problems, makes things more efficient. Leah's saying helps bring us, our organization, up to speed with what's happening in the rest of the field we may be in. Absolutely. When we share our learning, we can help different parts of the organization know what's happening in different departments and make those things connect. Esther says it brings in innovation, new ways of doing things. Sometimes we change processes or even how we interact with clients. Absolutely, absolutely. And to expand, grow, deliver effectively and efficiently. Yeah, our organizations would be absolutely stalled if there wasn't any learning. But it goes beyond that. It goes beyond the individual, goes beyond the organizational. It also helps the community level, right? So how does putting our learning into action help our communities? Feel free to pop that in the chat. Fidelia says it brings in new horizons into our processes. Yes, new horizons, new possibilities, new choices. Yeah. And what about our communities? How does it help our communities? I think, Fidelia, what you said about the new horizons, that also applies to communities, right? And Esther, about bringing new innovation, that can also apply to our communities as well. I mean, right now, particularly with the coronavirus, we need a lot of, challenging people to take action. Absolutely, right? I know, here in Kenya, in Nairobi and Mathare, folks are really focused on with such dense populations. Hi, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, Safi. It's so lovely to have you here. Welcome, welcome. Keeping people safe, right? And something that we do every day, washing our hands, taking a brand new look at how do we actually wash our hands in a way that will help stop the spread of this virus. Nav is saying being able to engage a community to want to know more. Yes, motivating them enables growth through knowledge and awareness. Yes. And educating the community. The more we learn, the more we understand how certain people may be shut out of our status quo learning systems and how to better engage them. Leah, absolutely. Yes, we tend to teach how we like to learn, right? We tend to teach how we like to learn, and not everybody learns the same way we do, right? So it's about being accessible and inclusive. Absolutely. Okay. So 3 things that you can do to immediately start applying your learning is to look at those 3 different lenses, right? To look at the individual level, the organizational level, and the community level. So when you learn something, think about how can it apply to me, right? How can I apply my learning? How can I use it to help my organization? And how can I use it to help my community? Okay, any questions on that? Is that making sense? Any things floating around that you're confused about, or? Okay. Maybe just give me a thumbs up or a okay in the chat if you're okay to move on. Okay. So Craig is saying, reference to this, how can we apply considering we are mostly in the office? Oh, great. That's a really good segue to our next section, our next 2 sections. Okay, fantastic. Okay, great, guys. Okay, so I've hopefully made the case why it's so important. But if we just stick with that theory, then I haven't helped you actually apply your learning. So we've talked about what transfer of learning is, and then 3 ways that you can start to think about it. which is individual, organizational, and community. Now, I'd like to share three, and I think these, I don't often make like proclamations, but I think these three habits are super, super important. I think Kennedy, earlier you were talking something to do with habits, so this might be particularly interesting for you. By the way, we'll go through these three habits, and then we'll have, if you need to, we'll have a quick stretch break because we'll be roughly halfway through our time probably after this. Okay, so three habits that I think if you get these three habits down, your ease and efficiency and effectiveness of applying your learning is going to skyrocket. So, and I took some of this research from Charles Duhigg's book called The Power of Habit. So these are what's called keystone habits, these three habits. So not all habits are the same importance. Some matter more than others. And I think these three are really, really critical. So before I share them with you, I have a big confession to make, or rather I have a confession to make about a big bias. I strongly believe that the more we can adapt our learning to online, not just, I don't just mean webinars and online, I mean books and magazines and such are totally fine. But the more we can apply these three habits, or rather the more we can include technology in these three habits, the more effective we'll be. Now, I know some of you your blood pressure might have just gone up because some of you might be almost 100% paper. But the fact that you're here with me today on an online training shows your strength in being able to include digital and tech tools. So I'm going to go through the three habits and just know that I'm going to lean towards using tech tools with them. Okay, so the first habit is, how do you store your learning? So you go to a conference, you take this workshop, you read a book, you listen to a podcast, you take a class. What is your way of capturing your learning? And feel free to pop that in the chat. How do you capture your learning? So Karen says note taking. Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else? Mind maps. Nice, nice. Google Drive Docs, Keep It, Evernote. Yeah, Esther. Photo. Oh, nice. Photos, notes, flashcards. Sticky notes, says Hamdi. Yeah. Sometimes voice recording. Yeah. Oh, Otter. I don't know that one. Okay, I'll look at that one. Thanks, Leah. Loom is another great one for making little recordings. You can record what's happening on your desktop too. That's Loom. I don't know, loom.com maybe. Loom. Brian saying notes and charts. Kennedy, I have an online document, Google Sheet, where I do a summary of each book I read and interesting workshop I attend. Nice, fantastic. Fidelia is saying take voice recordings during trainings. Rockaway making reflections on how this is related for what you do on a daily basis. Fantastic. So Rockaway, you're the first one there to actually talk about the application. So your storage method is actually including how you're going to, it's the beginning of how you're going to apply it. Cranky screenshots or snapshots with notes. Oh, these are great. So these are all fantastic ways. And I call this a learning well. And Safi's saying keep PowerPoint and Dropbox and review sometimes. Yeah, absolutely. So think about how you can customize this, as many of you have already done. Nav is saying notes, photos, video snips, voice recordings. However, getting time and motivation later to read through. Yes, need tools and motivation. We are totally going to get to that, Nav. Absolutely. So the first step is the learning well. So how can you get all of that information into a learning well? So I'm just looking through some ideas here that maybe haven't been mentioned. So in terms of handwriting notes, think about systems you can use to cue you to start to apply it. So for example, when I read a book, if I have one handy, the back of it, anyone who resells books thinks I'm a total nightmare, like a secondhand store. A friend said that to me because I always write and highlight in books. And I know when I put the letter A with a big circle around it, for me in my learning well, how I store my knowledge, my learning, that means it's an action to take. So there's something about that note that I've made in the back of the book that I'm going to take action on. Other things are having a Google Doc with hyperlinks or some other kind of document that has hyperlinks, so you can easily, you don't have to, doesn't take too long to find stuff. Leah says bullet journaling. Yeah, it can be similar to bullet journaling. So if you've not heard of bullet journaling, you can Google that. But basically, if you remember when you were a child, you might have made those maps and then you had a key in the map where this kind of line meant, I don't know, a railway, and this kind of line meant another thing. Think about how you can make a key for your learning, right? So some kind of system that helps you store that learning and record it. Evernote is a really great tool to use. It's a bit more complicated. It's a bit more robust. It's an online tool. Does anyone here have a YouTube playlist? That's another great way to store your learning. So Esther, great. Yeah, so you may or may not know. By the way, I'd love to know in the chat how many people didn't know that you can make a playlist in YouTube. You can save videos to a playlist of any title that you want. Yeah. So all of the videos, so this video is being recorded on Zoom and it goes into the Learning and Development playlist in YouTube. So that's another way. How many people bookmark things on your computer? Does anyone just pop a note in the chat if you bookmark things? That's another easy way. Yeah, Leah does. Yeah, a number of you do. Okay. I'm going to come back to that in a bit to see what kind of bookmark you have. So great. So it sounds like a lot of you have, lots of you bookmark. Great, great, great. That's wonderful to know. So just, your habit one is how do you store your learning? So that's the kind of foundational piece. You've got to figure out how to keep that. And I would encourage you to spend some time looking at reviewing your system and seeing, is there any other ways that you can store your learning? And if your system's working perfectly, fantastic. Okay, so the next, so Nav is saying bookmark. Yes, Nav. So there's two different ways you can bookmark. And I'm going to come back to that in the third habit. And if I don't answer your question, then you just let me know. Okay. But I think what most people are talking about here and maybe people can let me know in the chat. When you say you bookmark, do you mean you're bookmarking on your computer? Nav, if you want, after we officially finish the course, if this is still a question for you, I can show you my bookmarks on my my computer, and just show you what that looks like. So just remind me at the end if you want to see that. And by the way, Nav, no apologies. This is what we're about, right? It's about learning. Okay, so the second habit is, okay, so you've stored your learning. You've got these deep wells of learning and knowledge, and there's things that you're passionate about and excited about, and they have meaning to you. Now, the second habit is, how do you find it? How do you find your learning? Yeah, so people are, yeah, exactly. So you put the bookmark, it's like putting it on your computer browser, although there's another way that you may not be using. And bookmarking, yeah, so basically bookmarking is creating a little bookmark on your browser for things that you particularly like or that you go back to often. Okay, so you don't know how to bookmark. Yeah, I would be happy at the very end. Don't forget, folks, I'm going to put this on your shoulder. I'd be happy to do like a 5-minute, really, really quick tutorial on how to bookmark, because it's super, super easy. Okay, so Leah, for searching, yes, Evernote. So So now you've got this learning well, you've stored your learning. Now how do you find it? And this is why online learning is so, or tech tools are so great, because it makes things so easy to find. So Evernote, if you're using that particular program, that has an amazing search function. So that is one huge benefit to tech tools, is that it makes things much, much easier to find. Oh, what's better, Evernote or OneNote? I don't know OneNote, so I couldn't remark on that. Leah, is that a shortcut to bookmarking? Control F, is that what you're describing there? Just let us know. And maybe this would be, so I'm just thinking, going back, I'm thinking about doing April's thing on tech tools, so I could go into some of these. Yeah, I know OneNote's by Microsoft. I just haven't used it, but the big thing is to pick tools that work for you, that you feel in charge of, and that you feel in control of, and that meet your needs. And I've got some cool tools to how to figure that out. So maybe we can talk more about doing a specific tech tool section in April. Okay, by the way, I love how active the chat is. That's absolutely fantastic. Keep those comments coming, and know that you'll get a recording of all of those chat there. You'll have a copy of that. Okay, so the big thing about how to find your learning is using things like tags and keywords. So if you're using tech tools, doesn't matter what tool you're using, but if it's online, then keywords and tags start to become really important. And you may want to think about those strategic things that you're looking for. So if you're looking for, this is just a funny example, but if you're looking for documents on your computer or online, and you're using the keyword search term bush, but you've used tags or keywords called trees, then you're not going to have a fit there. So just be careful and think about, when you're storing something, right, and you're learning well, have a thought to, how am I going to be able to find this? Is this going to be easy to find? So that becomes really, really important, is the keywords and the tags that you're using. Okay, great. So you guys are, okay, so yeah, Leah, yeah, try and see what works for you, and leave room for a learning curve. So these tools, the general rule of thumb is, the more features they have, the longer the learning curve is. So just give yourself some time to try it. And if that tool doesn't work, just move on to another one. Okay, so the third habit, so we've got storing, we've got finding your learning. The third one is sharing your learning. So one of the easy ways of starting to apply your learning is simply sharing it with other people. And a really interesting way to do this, now I'm going to go back to bookmarking. So for those of you who are new to bookmarking, actually, let me just quickly show you here. So, okay. So folks, can you see my computer screen now? Just give me a thumbs up or a yes in the chat. Great, okay. So these here are examples of bookmarks, okay? So these are things, so these little folders, these are all on my computer. So in other words, if I went onto a different computer, or if I went to my tablet, I wouldn't be able to find these, because these bookmarks are on my computer. Now, here's the question. Rockway's saying, having a notebook for learning only helps a lot. You can always refer to it later. Absolutely, yeah, a handwritten notebook. The downside with notebooks is you can lose it, it's hard to find information, and it's hard to share. So if you have something that's really, and I have two notebooks. I have like a personal journal and a business journal. Because there's different ways of getting information into your head, and writing is actually quite helpful. But the challenge is that it'd be hard to share that information. And to find it, it just takes more time. So I am super interested. Lots of you have bookmarks. How many people have a digital bookmark? How many, or a social bookmark rather? How many people, does anybody use a social bookmark? Just pop a yes or a no in the chat and let me know there. Someone uses Toby. Okay. Okay. So a social bookmark. Okay. Okay. So here's a social bookmark. So Digo, and I'm going to pop this in the chat here. Okay. So a social bookmark, and there's lots of different programs that do it. Simply bookmark things online. That's all it does. It bookmarks things online. So anything you find online, you can put into your social bookmark. So the URL that I've just shared with you is all the things that I have tagged transfer of learning in Digo. And Digo is one type of social bookmark. So instead of me having to say, let's just say I showed you 4 videos, instead of having to send you all of those 4 videos and this resource and that resource and la 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 la, all you can do is go into my social bookmark, which I've just let you in. I've given you the link there. And anything that I've tagged transfer of learning, you're going to find. Okay. And let's just say tomorrow I add 20 more resources. It updates live. So if you come back to that link, you'll be able to find all of those things. Okay. So you can see here, and by the way, my Digo account is public, so you can search around for all different kinds of tags. And I have put all of the resources that I used in creating this workshop into this folder in my Digo social bookmark. And the tag that I'm using is transfer of learning. And you can see that other things have other tags. Okay. So maybe, you're welcome to come into my account anytime you want. You might find that there's other things, like maybe you're interested in let's try that again. If you're interested in instructional design, that's a tag of mine. So you can click on that, and any online resource that I've tagged instructional design, you automatically get access to. Now you might be thinking, oh, this is really public. You have the option in Digo, and I imagine other social bookmarking things, to tag things privately. So there are things related to my family that I have tagged that you wouldn't be able to see unless you have the password to my account. Okay, so just going backwards then to review here. So these are bookmarks I have made on my computer. Difficult to share because it's on my computer, which is great. Like when I'm doing my all of my social media posting for the week, I just click, okay, this is Tuesday, this is Wednesday, this is what I need to do Friday, etc. So it's fast, fast, fast. But the downside to this is if I'm not on my laptop, then I can't see them, right? This is specific to my laptop and it's hard to share. Digo is a free program, and yes, you can sign. Yeah, you just get an account. It's free. Yeah, so you can use it 2 ways. You can look at other people's Digo accounts, for example, the one mine I've just given you, or you can do it yourself. And the benefit to this, I'm just going to go back to our PowerPoint here, is that social bookmarking means that you can access those bookmarks from a colleague's computer, from your tablet, from as long as you have the sign-in information, the URL, you can get in, pardon me, from anywhere. And most importantly, it really helps you share your learning. So you can create categories with your teams. You can start tagging stuff that's related to your content, and then you can find it, right? Easy, easy, easy. So instead of me sharing, 50 links, I say, just go here. Any questions there? So we've talked about 3 habits. The first one is how to store your learning. The second one is how to find it. And the third one is how to share it. So I would love to see a number in the chat. So one is, just see here. I'm so glad it's helpful. Oh, I'm so happy it's helpful. Of these 3 habits, habit 1 is storing your learning. Habit 2 is being able to find your learning. And habit 3 is being able to share your learning. Which one are you most confident in yourself? Which one do you think, I've got that, I do that, I'm confident in my ability? So put a number 1, 2, or 3 in the chat there. So Nab's saying 2. Okay, anyone else? What are you which habit are you most confident about? 2, 1, 1, 1 and 2, 3, 1 and 2. Anyone else? 2 and 3. Nice. Okay. And which one, I'm just going to put here, I'm just going to put a note, so in case you're looking at this later on. Above are the habits you're most confident with, okay? And so what I'm doing right now is making it so that we can find things easier. We're storing information, but if you're going to look at this chat later, if I didn't have those 2 pieces in the chat, it would be hard to figure out what are those numbers. So now below that thing I've just added there, which is the habit you want to work on most? So 2 and 3, says Anna. 3, okay, 3. 2, 1 and 2, 1. Great. Great. Okay, and by the way, what we're doing right now is a transfer of learning technique, right? So I'm leading you to the learning well, right? I'm helping you figure out what you want to work on. So this is a transfer of learning technique. Okay. And by the way, for there's social bookmarking, there's lots of other ways to share as well. So for example, Evernote, that's a big, robust program. You're not going to be up and running in 5 minutes, but oh, it's fantastic. And I'm sure OneNote is too. I haven't used it. Every document, everything that you create in Evernote has its own URL, right? It creates automatically its own URL, so you can share stuff from Evernote as well. A YouTube playlist, that's an easy one to share as well. So don't think that social bookmarking is the only way to share. Okay, we're at the top of the hour. We're just a few minutes past 11. So I'm just going to pause the recording for a moment here. Please help me remember to. So we're back after a quick break, and you should in a second see a poll on your screen. Can you see a poll saying, what's your favorite thing to do to relax? Feel free to take that poll. This is just a way to get us refocused. And what's your favorite thing to do to relax? Read. Oh, by the way, give me a, can you see the poll on your screen? Just give me a yes or, oh, I got a yep and a no. Oh, Ida, are you okay? Can you see it? I got a yep and a note from you. Okay. I'm fascinated by online tech, so I am just trying to use all the tools we have to make this interesting for you and engaging. So just a little fun thing to get us refocused. Oh, I see. Okay, Ida, thanks. So what's your favorite thing to do? Read, surf the net, hang out with friends, dance, see a movie, make a meal, play a game, play a sport, other. I would love to know what the other is, if you feel comfortable sharing. So far the most popular one is seeing a movie show. Okay, movies. Okay, great. Okay, I'm going to end that poll, and we're going to do another one related to our. And by the way, I can. So there's our. Hi, Sonali. Welcome. We're so glad you're here. Welcome, welcome. So there is the results of the poll. So just as a way to get us refocused, the most popular one is to see a movie or a show to relax. And I think everything got, oh, except for playing a game. Yeah, so I was gonna say everything got at least one. Oh, other walking. Yeah, okay. Okay, so we have talked about 3 habits. And now I just want to start our next topic, which is all about 3 circles to think about. So when you look at this image, I don't know if you've seen this before. Can anybody see any circles? And if so, how many circles can you see? Can you see any circles? And if so, how many can you see? Kidasaf says 16. Yeah. Meredith, 16. Absolutely. Are some of you scratching your head thinking, I don't see any circles? Oh, hi, Sonali. Welcome back. Yeah, Anna, 0. Yes. If you stare long enough. Oh, do you want me to tell you the answer, or do you want to look at it when you're able to? I'll put the PowerPoint online for you. Do you want me to tell you where they are, or do you want it to be a say the answer? Okay. If you don't want to know the answer, don't look at the screen. So they're right here. If you look at them long enough, there's one there. There's one there. There's one there. Right there. So it's an optical illusion. Can you see them now, folks? Basically anywhere there's horizontal lines there. Yep, okay. Okay, so we're gonna talk about 3 environments that are really important. I like Anna, yay, yay, that's great. Yeah, when they pop, they absolutely pop and you think, how could I have missed them? But yeah. So the 3 circles to think about, so 3 circles that kind of surround you when you're thinking about transfer of learning. One is your environment. Okay, your environment can be really conducive to learning and applying learning, or it can be horrible. So in the chat, describe a horrible learning environment for you. And by the way, your horrible learning environment might be someone else's ideal environment. So there's no judgment here. Anything goes. So what's a really good learning environment, or really horrible learning environment for you? And let me just put this in it. So yeah, so Winifred said loud spaces. Yeah. What else? What else would really affect your learning? I'm just going to change screens here for a sec. Oops. Okay, so we've got 2 loud, noisy spaces, limited interactions, a dark room, death by PowerPoint style. That's great here. Anything else? Does anybody like a limited interaction? Yeah. Does anybody like loud, interactive, lots of things going on? Do you learn better in that situation? Because absolutely some people do. Yeah, I do sometimes. I have too loud and also too quiet. Oh, interesting. Okay, okay. So I'm going to share with you a link, and all of these resources will come in the follow-up, just as long as you're a member of the roundtable. But this is a survey here that can help you determine what your personal learning environment is. And it's important to know that so that you can maximize your learning. And it's particularly important to know it now, given that how many people on online, I'll just type this in. How many of you are working from home right now? Or not in your office, in your typical office? Yeah. And that's new for most of us. So, and some of us have kids at home, and this is just a very unique time when we're talking about learning. So if you wish, feel free to click on that link, and that you can, it helps prompt you to think about what your personal learning environment is. So that's one of the circles. The other circle to think about is your organization. Yeah, I think everyone's working from home right now, or at least everyone that answered, yeah. So for those of you working for an organization, keep in mind or find out what are your organization's learning policies. So for example, the UN has a mandated 5 days of learning a year, and this roundtable counts towards them. So as long as you fill in the attendance sheet, which I gave at the beginning of the workshop and I'll give it again at the end, this counts towards that. Talk to your supervisor, talk to your team, figure out what those learning opportunities are, and then figure out how you can share your learning with your organization, with your team, with your colleagues, etc. And make sure that you use your organization to the maximum, like really make time after you go to an event, like after this roundtable. I would really encourage you to share these resources. Teach this workshop to someone else, right? At least one other colleague. Anna's saying, kindly share these links. Yes, as long as you're a member of the roundtable, you will get all of the links. You'll get the audio recording, visual recording, the chat, the PowerPoint, all the resources I use to design it. All of those will be yours. And I'll give you the link to sign up for the roundtable in case you haven't done that already. Okay, so think about yourself, your personal learning environment, think about your organization, and then think about your community, right? So how can you share your learning with your community? And how can you surround yourself with great learners, right? There are some fantastic options right now. This fellow on LinkedIn is doing like a virtual book club using a Facebook thing. There's tons and tons of online opportunities. There's Facebook groups, there's Twitter lists you can join. If you can teach a workshop in your community online, think about that. And of course, join the roundtable and be active, join the Facebook group, all of those kinds of things. What are you doing right now in your community for learning? Is anyone teaching in their community? Is anyone being of service in their community? Feel free to share that in the chat. Anybody there? So for example, this roundtable that I started seven and a half years ago now, something like that. This is a way of my serving our community, right, of giving back. And Karen goes saying, I used to lecture in one of the universities and church with the little children. Yeah, nice. Yeah, so I really encourage you, right, now is an extraordinary time, and thinking about how can you be of service. Winifred's saying teaching our kids now as school is out. Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And there's lots of museums have opened their virtual doors. You can take kids on tours, or you can go on a tour, maybe organize a group and go on a tour, a virtual tour of a museum. Winifred's saying teaching our kids, no, yeah, teaching in church. That one of my, on a personal note, just to help show you how communities can come together in unusual ways, there's a bar in London called Piano Works, and it is astoundingly good. You can request any song you want, and two people will play a piano, two different pianos, and the music is incredible. And unfortunately, they're closing, but tonight they're having a virtual performance to raise money for their performers who are being laid off temporarily. So tonight, it starts at 8 p.m. London time, which is 11 p.m. Nairobi time. I am going to be in my living room dancing away to this concert, and I'll be donating to the performers. So if that's something of interest, join me tonight. Virtual dancing, virtual listening to the music, and look that up on Facebook. Piano Works. It's called Piano Works. Okay, so. We just to go back again, just a quick, because I know some people are coming in and out because of Wi-Fi. We've covered a lot of ground. We've talked about what is transfer of learning. We've talked about why it's so important to put your learning into action for a personal point of view, organizational, community level. We've talked about 3 habits. Do you remember the 3 habits? Pop those in the chat if you remember. What are the 3 habits? for learning, for transferring your learning? What was number 1? Anybody remember? Yeah. Oh, you guys are great. Yeah. Finding, storing, store, find, share. Yeah, exactly. Great job. And then we've talked about these 3 circles that surround us: the individual, the organizational, and the community. So the last piece to talk about, and a number of you talked about this right at the beginning. I'm aware I'm touching my face. I know I'm not supposed to touch my face, but my nose is very itchy. Hi, Sonali. Thanks for coming back. I'm guessing your internet is tricky there, but welcome back. Okay, so our next piece here is 3 ingredients for using your learning, and how to completely customize these 3 ingredients. And a number of you talked about this in the beginning. And the first one is motivation. So if you can figure out what motivates you, then that will really, really help sustain your learning. So I'm going to give you a tool right now. I'll share, and again, all of these links will be in the follow-up resources. If you are a member of the Roundtable, you get all of these every month. Okay, so this is a link to a survey that I designed, and I use this in my trainings all the time. And this is based on National Geographic research that I did. And you answer some questions, and it's very short. It's not long at all. And then it will help you figure out which of 6 different types of motivation applies to you. And oftentimes people get more than one. So just generally speaking, what motivates you? How have you helped yourself apply your learning or continue to learn? Anybody? Competence. Oh, Esther, so you want to be competent? Yeah. To perform in my job? Yeah. To solve a challenge, a problem? To be relevant? Yeah, I was just thinking that. Yeah, to keep on top of things, be relevant, to be challenged, to interact with others. Yeah, so some people are motivated just completely internally, and some people are motivated externally. To be more intelligent. Yeah. Yeah, lots of different ways. So one of the ways that you can apply your learning from this workshop is to take that quick survey, and then figure out what motivates you. Okay, so if motivation comes from inside us, the second thing is accountability, right? So when we're learning, one of the things that really helps us apply that learning is to be motivated. And secondly is to be accountable. So in the past, when you have learned something, how have you held yourself accountable? I'll just put this in the chat too. So above are motivation examples, below are accountability examples. So motivation comes from inside and accountability is external. So what are some ways that you can be held accountable? Any ideas? By sharing, by application, yeah. By teaching. Teaching is a great way to be accountable because you want to sound knowledgeable and competent. By getting results, Yeah. Other things include getting a mentor, have an accountability buddy. Exactly, Esther. You can be accountable to your supervisor, to a colleague. You can get accountability apps. Oh, making a bet with a friend. Yeah, absolutely. There's a great, what's it called? Oh, it's over there. I'm just going to take this off just for a sec. Continue brainstorming. I'll show you. Just Leah, your comment made me think of something. So just keep brainstorming different ways to be accountable. I'll be back in 2 seconds. This is a wonderful book. You can see it. This is all about, if you've heard about the nudge unit. Has anyone heard of the nudge unit in the UK government? The first nudge unit in the world. Is that familiar to anybody? I don't know. Okay, so these people, the subtitle really explains it. The surprisingly small way to bring about big change. This is a fantastic book. I'll put it in the chat here. And they talk about very small things that we can do. I'm just typing out the title here for you. So for example, in the nudge unit in the UK, they had offered folks money if they would put extra insulation in their homes, right, to save energy, be energy efficient, etc. And they found that people weren't doing it. They weren't taking the government up on their offer. And the reason why they found, after they did some research, was because people had too much stuff in their attic, right? The upper part of their house. And so the tiny little change that they did is when they sent out the letter again to encourage people to take advantage of this grant to make their homes more energy efficient, they included a flyer. Any guesses on what that flyer could have been about? It's a small, tiny change. Any guesses? What would the flyer be promoting? Yes, Nav. Yes, exactly. And organizations that would help people clear out their attics. So the rate of people taking up the government, storage space, that would be a good example too, Winifred. The rate of people taking up their offer of this government grant just went skyrocketing. So this kind of talks about motivation. I'm going to write a blog post about this book. It was one of my favorite reads from last year. And Leah, you made me think about it because the guys in here, it happens to be two men, Owain Service and Rory Gallagher. The authors, they are directors of the nudge unit, and they were trying to, I can't remember, lose weight or something like that. And they bet each other that if they lost, they'd have to donate a huge, like a lot of money to their the football team that they hated. Right? It wasn't the football team that they liked, so it was kind of reverse psychology. Anyways, so yeah, lots of different ways to be accountable, and there's even apps, right? You can get an app that where you tick off when you've done a habit, right, and you've done something every day, or there's different mandalas. If you've seen mandalas, those beautiful, let me know do folks know what I'm talking about, these mandalas that you can color in? Just put a yes or a no in the chat. They're beautiful. It's like adult coloring, and they're all little details, and people can color in a section every time that they do a habit. Karen's saying yes, very relaxing. Yeah. So one of the things I want to do is create a mandala for folks, and with different steps, and then you can color that in. That's on my list of learning activities to design. Okay, so when we're talking about these 3 key ingredients, one is motivation, and I've given you a survey that you can take after the workshop. 2 is accountability. Accountability can be an app, it can be a mentor, a peer, a checklist that you have every day. So for me, I'm on this eating plan that's really radically changing how I feel for the better and my health. And part of the way that I hold myself accountable and part of the way I motivate myself, I don't know if you can see, but I have these elastic bands. I need to drink 6 of these a day. And I was wasting too much time getting confused. Am I on my 3rd one or my 4th one? I forget. So every time I fill this up, I take an elastic band off of here and I put it on here. So you can see that I've had 2 today by the time I finish this. And then the next time I'll take one off. And so that just is a super, super simple way for me to keep accountable. I know at the end of the day, if I have, my goal is to make sure I don't have any elastic bands hanging off here, that they're all on my water bottle. Let me know if that makes sense in the chat there. Any questions? Okay, so we've talked about motivation, accountability. Thanks, Esther. She's saying that's so cool. Yeah, it saves, if you mean the water bottle, yeah, it just saves. I don't want to be wasting time thinking, is this my 3rd or my 4th? Just want it to be easy, right? Things have to be easy if you're going to make it a habit. Okay, and then the 3rd one, sorry, so the piece about the accountable is that's going from me to we and figuring out how other people can help keep you accountable. And Kwamwa is saying, cool, but I just drink it at once. I'm not sure what that means. You can, if you want to help me understand. I'm working on my thesis and it's very difficult to motivate myself. Please advise. Yeah, so I would, like we've talked about, I would figure out your motivation style. So I would do that survey. I would recommend that. And then that's the internal piece. And then I would figure out how you can be accountable. So some of the strategies we've talked about, which include some habits. So what are some habits that you can include on a daily basis to help you get through that thesis? And by the way, I've been there. I know what that's like. When I was finishing mine, I had a 2-year-old and who was very, very, very active. And so one of my habits that Rockwee's saying, what time are we finishing? So we finish in half an hour, Rockwee. We go for 30 more minutes. One of the things I did is I got up extra early and it was really cold. I was living in Canada at the time. And I would sit on my deck wrapped up in my blanket, and the cold air in the early, early morning would help me focus and work on it before my 2-year-old woke up. Okay, so the 3rd one, of course, is taking action, right? Putting all of these things together to take action. And part of taking action, you're welcome. Part of taking action can include things like having a learning plan, right? Last roundtable, we did a session on how to create a learning plan for yourself, and I'll include a link to that in the follow-up resources. Pardon me. Taking action can include what I call 1 up, 1 over, and 1 down. So who is senior to you that you can share this learning with? Who is a colleague, right? They're on the same level that you can share this learning with. And who is someone that you supervise or you're older than or more senior to, and you can share this learning with. Figure out your learning environment, right? In that survey link that I gave you, and create a learning environment that really fits you. And remember, it's supposed to fit you. So your learning environment might be different from your colleagues, your partner, etc. Figure out how we talked about your learning well, like code your learning. So I was saying, when I'm reading something, in the back of a book, you can see all my notes, right? So it's really easy for me to go back and look, and you might be able to see here, there's a quote section. So I have these are all page numbers of quotes that I post a quote on social media once a week. So that's a really simple way to transfer my learning. I have someone who transcribes those quotes, then they go to my virtual assistant who makes it into a meme. That's all in a Google Doc, and then poof, it goes out once a week. So those are systems that help me take action. And I'd really encourage you to figure out, what are the ones that fit you? Because I might be giving you examples that you go, ooh, I don't know, that's not going to fit for me. So figure out, what fits you. Okay, so your task, of course, in addition to figuring out what motivates you and how to hold yourself accountable, is of course how to put this all into action. So when we take a look here, these are all the things that we have now covered, right? You guys are rock stars. We've covered 3 habits, 3 circles, and 3 ingredients. So I'm just going to give you another quick poll here. Oops. Sorry for that. So which of all of these, by the way, can you see the poll on your screen now? Just put a yes or thumbs up in the chat. Can you see the poll? Great. Okay, handy. Great. So I'm curious, of all of those, so we've talked about 9 different things now. Of all of those things, which one is most, you're like, oh, that is the thing I really want to work on? Is it storing your learning? Habit 1, habit 2, being able to find your learning? Is it habit 3, sharing your learning? Is it circle 1, environmental? Circle 2, organizational? Is it circle 3, community? Is it ingredient 1, motivation? Ingredient 2, accountability? Or ingredient 3, action? And by the way, you can fill in more than one. I put this poll open, so if there's 2 things you want to work on, or 3. Nice. Great. So what I find so interesting, okay, let me end it. Is everyone finished? Okay, maybe I'll leave it open for a couple more seconds. You haven't voted yet. And by the way, this is another way to apply your learning. I'm getting you to think about what is the thing that you're most curious about that you really want to work on. Okay, so I'm going to count down to stop the learning, or stop the learning, to stop the poll. Okay, 3, because you haven't voted yet, 2, 1. Okay, so I'm going to end the poll and I'll share those results with you. So of course the one that's the biggest one is the action piece, which is great. And what I find super, Esther's saying my whisper is loud. Yeah, I don't want to whisper too loud that you can't hear me. Okay, what's so interesting is that there's at least 3 checks for every single one, which is fantastic. So there's lots of different ideas there. Okay, so I now, with your permission, I'm going to divide you into small groups. Okay, and think about, I'd like you to introduce yourself to the people in your small groups. So I'm just going to do some breakout rooms, and I'll just divide you randomly. And make sure you introduce yourself, unmute yourself and introduce yourself, and then talk about how you're going to apply your learning from this workshop. So what is it of these things that you ticked? What's your plan? And try to come up with at least three ways of applying your learning. Okay, so I'm going to put you in small groups. Make sure you introduce yourself and then share some ideas for how to apply your learning, what you want to focus on. So before I do that, let me know in the chat if there's any questions. So is there any questions on that task? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to divide you up. You're going to have 4 people in each room, and I'll leave you in those rooms for. I'll come in and see how you're doing in about 5 minutes. If you need more time, you can do that. And then when we come back, we're going to debrief. And the really, really important thing in those breakout rooms is to get the name and contact information of one person in the breakout room. Okay, so you're going to share your contact information with one person in the room, and you're going to get contact information from one person in the room. And when I say contact information, that can mean phone number, it can mean email, WhatsApp, whatever you like. Okay, so before I do that, any questions you have about the task? I'm going to divide you, introduce yourself, talk about what you want to focus on in terms of applying your learning, and make sure you get contact information from someone in the group. Okay, so at a click of a button, you're going to be in breakout rooms, and then I'll see how you're doing in about 5 minutes, and we'll go from there. Have fun, have fun, have fun. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Eliane.
Welcome back, welcome back. How did your chats go?
Very well, thank you.
Did you get the contact information for at least one person?
I did get the contact information for Fidelia.
You did?
Yes.
Okay. If you didn't, I'm just putting this in the chat. Just share that information in the chat. If you haven't already done that, that's going to be important. And I'll just ask folks to mute themselves again. That just helps with the background noise. So we'll go back to the PowerPoint here, and we're recording again.
Sorry, Lee.
Oh, yes.
For what we've shared in the groups, will it also be shared eventually to all of us, or how will it happen with the contacts?
Yeah, no. So that won't be. I don't share contact information with people in the group. So if you didn't get a contact information yet, just put that in the chat function. And the reason why I do that is because not everyone, right from the very beginning, yeah.
Okay.
If you want to, you're absolutely more than welcome to do that. Just make sure that you put it in the chat before we end here.
Okay.
And speaking of ending, we're just headed into the last 10 minutes or so. So hopefully you got a chance to think about which one of these things you wanted to focus on. And I want to begin our closing, but with this quote: make your education valuable. And I would also put in learning, make your learning valuable. Apply what you learned, refuse to take the back seat, and watch things happen. Join the change and be part of the change, which I think is a really great way. So you know what I'm going to ask you right now, right? I'm going to ask you, what are you doing after this workshop to apply your learning? So what's one thing you talked about in your group? It's one thing you're going to do. Anybody? Just check the chat.
Hi.
Hi. You can put it, and people are welcome to put it in the chat, or they can unmute themselves and say. So Brian says, in my group, we shared contact, but not all might have noted that. Yeah, so make sure, Leah, Rocky, Brian, make sure that you've got your contact information. Karangal, yes, absolutely. So if you're a member of the roundtable, you'll get emails from me, you'll get all these resources, etc. So you can definitely reach me from those emails for sure. So what's one thing, can you folks just put that in the chat? One thing you're going to do to apply your learning from the workshop? Is anyone going to take the motivation survey, the personal environment survey, things like that? Oh, that's great. You got the contact, Winfred. Good. Okay, Leah's, I'm going to take the survey. Great. Anything else? Esther says, I see the importance of accountability that will move me to action. Yay! Yes, I will participate.
That's from Lucy.
From Lucy, okay. Oh, Lucy,
Yes.
okay, I wasn't sure. Thanks, Lucy.
Yeah.
Karen, oh, the learning plan. Yeah, that was last month, so I'll give you all the access to that roundtable. Fidelia, we shared our contacts and create a learning team. Ooh, I like that. Ooh, learning team. High five for learning teams. That's great. And Rakwi's going to take the survey. Rakwi's coming to us from Somalia, by the way. Or I'm assuming you're in Somalia right now, Rakwi, which is great. Safi, motivation and learning environment theory, make a plan to take action. Yes. Sharing, yes. And you are in Somalia. Yeah, stay safe. Yeah. Leah, Rockley and Brian, could we also have a learning team? Oh, you guys, I love to dance, and if I wasn't sitting down, I'd be like up and dancing right now. That's fantastic. Oh, you guys, that's fantastic. Okay, well, here in closing, I'm just going to switch us to a different screen here. Okay, so folks, can you see the agenda here? Just give me a thumbs up in the learning if you can see that. Just move that over. Okay. Oh, Rocky, Brian, and Leah, Rocky needs your contact information. Safi, you're saying no. I'm not sure what you're saying no to. And Hamdi, oh, sorry, you can't see my screen? Oh, okay, what's going on here? Let me just. You just see my face. Oh, okay. So let's hang on here. I think. Okay, I think that's. How's that, folks? Can you see? Oops. Just trying to get back to the chat. Sorry, folks, I just lost your chat for a second here. Sorry for the pause. Okay. Okay, everyone, can you see the agenda now? Yeah, okay, great. Okay, great. So I am going off of the agenda that I sent you. So this is exactly what you should have got links to. So thank you so much. you know, I have designed and delivered training to more than 40,000 people in and from more than 125 countries. And I have to say, I was nervous this morning. This is new, having the round. In 7 years, we've never had a fully 100% online. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being kind and for learning and for participating. I know I'm going to get off this call and just be on a total high. I'm so grateful to have worked with you. So a couple things. Is there any community announcements? Is there anything happening in your community that you want to share? You can put that in the chat there. Anything happening this weekend? Any good online virtual things that you're going to be participating in this weekend, or just put that in the chat. And just while you're doing that, I'm going to grab put it at the very beginning here. So this is really important, folks. This is the attendance sheet. So just while you're thinking about if there's any events you want to share, the only way for you to get credit for this roundtable, this is if you're a UN staff, is if you fill in this attendance sheet, and the link is in the chat. Yes, Fidelia, yes, absolutely. Everyone be careful and be medically sensitive. Absolutely. Take very good care of yourselves, your colleagues, your family. Be careful and try to stay with a positive mindset. Yeah, we will get through this. Our next meeting is April the 17th. So if you are a member of the roundtable, you will get all of those invitations. O'Brien's saying, Lee and Rockwood, they shared with you addresses. Yes, be safe, have a positive mindset. Leave any comments in the chat if you have ideas about April 17th. I'm kind of at this point leaning towards, George, thank you for filling in the attendance sheet. If I'm leaning towards either how to hold online meetings and webinars, or a specific thing on tech tools that really make a difference. So if you are interested in one of those, if you have another idea, just put those in the chat. And these are all the upcoming meetings: April 17th, May 15th, June and July we won't meet, August 21st, September 18th, all the other ones are there. And let me just also quickly share with you the, I just really want to be clear because I know there's been some confusion. So I just want to repeat this. This is this blue screen here. This, oh, so Leah's saying, what if you're not in the roundtable? So if you're not a member, so this is exactly how you become a member, Leah. There's absolutely no charge. What you do need to do is fill in, I'll share it with you again. Hang on here. This is the sign up link. So that's the link to sign up. When you click on that link, you will get this screen here. So you just put your name and your email. What happens then is you will join, that means you'll join the mailing list. You'll get all the invitations. You will get, next week, you'll get an email with the link to the video, the audio, the chat, all the resources that I use. Oh, I don't think I showed you actually. Let me just quickly show you here. So you'll get all of these. Can you see the PowerPoint screen? Just pop a yes into the chat if you can see the screen that says resources to help you put your learning into action. Can folks, okay, so I will send you all of these hyperlinks. These are to like the DIGO link, the environment survey, all of that kind of stuff. But again, I just want to be super clear, only members get that. Only members get those resources and get the invitations. So you get that by signing up. Again, there's no cost. And just to distinguish that, when you RSVP, that's a different link. That means you're coming to a particular meeting. So again, just make sure that you have signed up. And Oh, that Nav, you can, that's a really good question. I don't know if the link is on the Facebook group page. It's probably best just grab it from the chat and sign up through there. And then you get all the, and you also get access to 7+ years of resources. I sound like I'm selling stuff. There's no fee involved at all. I'm just so passionate about helping our learning and development community, really prioritizing learning, because I passionately believe that learning and teaching and applying our learning is going to change the world. So I am going to say a big, big, big thank you. I'm going to stop the recording right now. So I'm just going to stop the recording for March 20th to 2020's Learning and Development Roundtable on how to apply our learning. Thank you so much.